Welcome to Not a Great Whisperer podcast. This is your host, Katie Ray. I am joined with the inspirational Natasha
Nascimento.
Damn it, I knew I'd fuck it up. Nascimento, president of Redefining Refuge, which is a nonprofit focused on child sex trafficking.
Yep.
Survivors, empowering, all of that fun stuff we'll get into later of how you empower your survivors. I would love to really dig into who you are, what brings you here today, why I reached out to you, and just thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about who Natasha is.
Natasha, let's see. So I'm originally from Johannesburg, South Africa, and I moved here in my senior year of high school, which is terrible.
I was just going to say, that's horrible.
Yeah, your parents tell you that as you get older, you'll get over it, but that's not true. So it was a really horrible time to move. But nevertheless, we moved here. I went to USF, and my major was in economics, funny enough, and ended up working in finance, which is something that I'd always wanted to do. And so sort of during my finance career, I was doing really well. I was working at Smith Barney at the time, which was my dream job. And I just was super disenfranchised and thought, man, this is it. This is what I wanted to do, and this is going to be my whole life. And so growing up in South Africa, you grow up around a lot of need. So need's not something that's ever very far away from you. Mm-hmm. And so growing up, we've always sort of volunteered and all these things. And I kind of got out of that moving here and going to college and what have you. And also I think there's an ignorance on my part that you think you'll move to the United States of America and there's no need. You know, what could anyone possibly need in America? And so I went to a community alliance meeting. They still have them. I believe it's the second Tuesday of every month if anyone in the audience or anyone that's listening wants to go. It's at the Children's Board of Hillsborough County. And so I went to one of these meetings just to listen and to figure out what the need was in Hillsborough County. And my very first meeting, they were talking about child prostitutes. And I was so confused. So this was in 2008, just to give you guys some context. Very confused. I don't understand what a child prostitute is. And all these sort of stakeholders around me are talking very openly about child prostitutes. And so, you know, being from another country, I raised my hand and I said, well, you know, what's the age of consent in the state of Florida? Because maybe I don't know. And so they said the age of consent was 18. Then I was even more confused.
Why are we using these terms together?
Right, right. So if the age of consent's 18, how can a child be a prostitute? So very confused. So I raised my hand again and I said, what do you guys do with child prostitutes? And they looked at me like I was absolutely mad and said, well, what do you mean? Prostitution's illegal in the state of Florida, so we arrest them. And I was so taken aback. And so kind of a little bit facetiously, I asked, I said, so I just want to make sure when I leave here, I'm not going to make up a rumor. So just to be clear, children that cannot consent and are therefore being raped, when they see a law enforcement officer that they think is there to help them, they are there to arrest them. I just want to be clear.
That I'm understanding that everyone in this room is literally, this is what is happening.
And so they all looked at me again, and sort of their frame of reference was, well, yeah, you know, prostitution's illegal. And so then the very last question I asked was, what if this was a foreign kid? What if it was a foreign kid? And then the puzzled look was even more puzzled, and they said, well, that's different. That's trafficking. And this little tiny 3-minute exchange that I had, it changed my whole life because I was like, holy goodness. People think that trafficking only exists if these kids are crossing borders or these kids are foreign. And that's not what's happening here. And so I left the meeting and I went to all these organizations in Tampa that were already working with kids. And I said, hey, do you guys know about this? And they were like, well, yeah, prostitution's illegal. And so I just kept getting this answer from everyone about prostitution being illegal. And so
did you kind of feel like you were wrong because of how many people were saying, yeah, did you have to question? Were you like, wait, I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone. Like there's something.
no,
These people are idiots.
Because it was just, it was such an oxymoron in my brain that it was blowing me away, the response that I was getting. And so I started doing research. And at the time, I could only find, I think, 2 or 3 organizations in the entire United States that were on the same bandwagon, that we need to reframe child prostitution as trafficking. And so,
because it is. Like,
right. I mean, it's a child. 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds.
Prostitution as in consent, and you're saying child in front of it.
Well, what does the word prostitution imply?
Soliciting sex.
Right.
Or soliciting
and
sexual.
Soliciting sometimes
is
there's this element of choice or autonomy that people immediately think of. A child doesn't have autonomy or choice in that way. And so then I just didn't think anyone cared enough. And so I started Redefining Refuge. And it was literally a public awareness campaign. I bought a Nonprofit for Dummies book from Barnes & Nobles, and that's how this whole thing started.
Yeah, because it lit a fire under your butt.
Yes.
Or ass. That just was like, people need to understand this. So they're getting arrested. They're going to juvie.
Yes.
When caught.
Yes.
There's no type of help.
Nope.
Or
nope.
And you were able to help change that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so imagine you see, and I did this. So for 2 years, I was doing research before and trying to figure my way out through the Nonprofit for Dummies book, right? How to start a nonprofit. And so in these years, you do research. And so then you meet kids I was in court and I saw a child, literally little tiny wrists have handcuffs on them, ankles have handcuffs on them. And she has a chain around her waist. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? She weighs like 70 pounds on a good day.
You just picked her up.
No, I
from
went
being,
to
no,
a,
no,
a
they
court
picked
hearing.
her up and then
yes,
she's shackled. Yeah, and she's shackled
and
after.
she's shackled, like she's like an axe murderer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a child. And what are we doing? We're taking a traumatized little human and traumatizing them even more with that process. Yeah. So yeah, it was horrible.
I'm actually amazed at that they put and they say that, like how they word things in the media and how they say the way they like parrot. It's like, no, this is a child still. This is rape. This is not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it's horrible how they do that. But do you feel like you have grown up? I mean, there's so many things that people don't understand. As a mother, like I try to dive into it when I can, like sit there and dive into it with the research. But aren't things changing all the time? What is like the scariest number that you always see for child sex trafficking? What's one of the scariest things that you see here?
Well, one of the scariest things that we deal with locally is familial sex trafficking. And this is very common for us. I would say about 50% of the cases that are assigned to us, and we get pretty much all of Hillsborough County's minor cases, it's familial sex trafficking. So it's a mom or a dad or a primary caregiver that is trafficking their own child. And 9 out of 10 times, there's a substance abuse problem in the home. And so mom or dad or caregiver are trafficking their own kids for drugs.
So that's the scary thing with COVID. So many kids were at home.
Yes, we had some terrible cases during COVID. I mean, imagine being stuck at home with your abuser the entire day. And now you have no additional oversight. Teachers aren't seeing you. School counselors aren't seeing you, after school programs.
You don't have the adults that are actually helping you.
Exactly. So it did create problems for us, certainly, of parents making pornographic content of their kids available online. So that's another thing that you see. So they're not always
physically
it's not
there.
always forced prostitution. Sometimes it's pornography as well. So.
And do you have like people on, or you do work with other departments or places that pull in like child pornography and things that are happening like local that you can find?
Yeah, so I mean, we work with the Department of Children and Families. Obviously, ECHID Connects, we're contracted to them, so we're the Circuit 13 human trafficking liaison. So we're seeing, I mean, yeah, we share all the cases. Lots of our cases overlap. I normally tell people that trafficking is a byproduct of a lot of other things that have gone wrong already. So you see domestic violence, substance abuse, just a lot of other vulnerabilities, and all the time sexual abuse. So we've never had a case where the child wasn't sexually abused very early on before this happened.
So let's talk about when you hear things like conspiracy theories that are, it's only coming from the right side or the left side. Like, can you discuss how it is everywhere? Yes. And it is happening. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, regardless of your political beliefs or affiliations, child trafficking, as I've said before, is not a conspiracy theory. That's something that impacts all of us every single day in our neighborhoods, in our schools. It's not a certain demographic of children.
Rich or poor.
It can happen to any children. I mean, we've had kids in our, in our program who are the very sort of textbook case. And then we've had kids that come from super high income families where their parents are both doctors in South Tampa. So you're not exempt just because you live in a certain zip code or, what have you, or you, again, have a certain political affiliation. Trafficking it's rampant. It's happening everywhere. It's happening to American children. I've been doing this for over a decade now. And in the entire time that I've been doing this, we've only ever had one foreign national child. One. The rest of our kids were born and raised predominantly in the state of Florida.
Do you work with other nonprofits doing this together?
Yes. So we have so many different collaborative partnerships. We could never do the work that we're doing on our own. So we have partners. So the Tampa Museum of Art, we do, awesome. Sort of art therapy with them, and Instruments for Life does music therapy, and we do movement. There's so many different organizations that we work with that help our kids, our Children's Advocacy Center, our Crisis Center. So we're all definitely collaboratively working on our cases.
So do you still see cases that it says child prostitution?
No, so we've got really good at that. In 2012, our legislation was changed. In 2013, Governor Scott adopted it officially into Florida legislation, and this was called Safe Harbor. So it just mandated that children had to be treated as victims and not as criminals. Because again, even think about this really quickly. There's so many horrible names for a prostitute, right?
Yeah.
Horrible names. I don't have to tell anyone them. You can think of 10 in 2 seconds. And so this is how our kids are getting treated. But the people that are buying sex from kids, we call them John. Like, oh, what a nice name for a child rapist. Your name is John. And that was one of the things that in reframing this, we were like, do you see what we're doing here? We need a whole paradigm shift. So it has happened. I haven't seen any headlines say child prostitution or, anything like that. I think they're getting it. The media is getting it. So.
Well, is it not crazy to say you've been in this for a decade and all of the education you've had to give to adults? I mean, right now, you saying child prostitution to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, people said that, and it was like mind blown.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, I'm like, wow, there's so much shit to learn. And right? But as a mom, I'm anxiety when a car drives by us and I'm not in arm's length from the kids at a park, or I'm not, things like that. In your mind, you see the movie ones, but it's literally like neighbors.
So let's talk about that, actually. So I want to put parents' minds at ease a little bit. Statistically, less than 1% of trafficked child cases in the United States are abduction cases. So I'm going to say that again.
Oh, Natasha.
Less than 1% parents.
But not thank you, because it's still scary.
Oh, it's horrible, sure.
But that's a good number for me right now.
Right? You can breathe out a little bit.
Because it's more because it's a hidden thing, right? So it's very secretive. You're telling the child to keep this on, or you're it breaks my heart thinking of a child who's at their home and they have to feel so unsafe.
In their own home.
Or their mom, the person that I just like my heart just like rips out. And then as I told you, digging into child pornography, but also pornographic images and the ages kids see them. Yeah. I've dug into that. I've studied it and seen that at the age 11, on the internet, a boy will see the first 2 images of a female, anal or abuse sexually. So that's like their first images of something sexual.
Yeah. So
and it's
very intentional too. That something that parents should understand. We actually did we're getting ready to release a paper on pornography and the impact of pornography on sex trafficking in general, because one's perpetuating the other. And so one of the most highly Googled thing on the internet is teen porn and pornography. I was actually at a pornography conference that I couldn't even make it through the entire conference. By Thursday, I was like, I need the beach and like a bottle of wine, because I cannot listen to
a
this
whole
anymore.
bottle of wine.
I mean, really.
I know.
And so they were showing that in pornography in general, the trend is going more and more pedophilic. So this is what's happening. The more sort of prepubescent the woman looks, this is where the trend in pornography is going. And so this is not good news, obviously, for pedophilia in general.
Disgusting.
And it's very intentional as well. So in pornography, they oftentimes insert images of younger people, and then sort of your brain, what fires together, wires together. So you think that that's what aroused you, but you're already in a state of arousal. So this is very intentional.
Oh, shit.
And then with our kids, it's the same way. You could have a kid that's playing, Minecraft or watching Minecraft videos on YouTube, and then the next thing you know, there's some horrible image. This is on purpose.
And I tell people, like, open communication,
yes,
being a parent and parent controls is so important. And having that open communication. So if something like that is to slip through the cracks, doesn't make you a bad parent, but that kid can be like, this is what just happened. So you can help them understand what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
I think not making them feel shamed.
Exactly. I was going to
talking about sex, talking about this, not putting down my husband's generation, but they didn't talk about sex. And three boys. So imagine that.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up and being like shamed for it. Or if you saw your first image at the age of 6, how are you incorporating that? So when my son tells me everything, I'm always like, okay, that's okay.
I think it's great.
You got it. Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned the element of shame, because when we don't even teach children the proper, correct names of their anatomy, you're teaching them shame. So if you give their, penis a nickname like cover your wee or whatever it is that parents
your
do.
vajayjay. No,
not even. I
know.
Your,
I can't.
Hoo-ha. Whatever.
It's the vagina
You're
and a penis.
Teaching them
please.
to be ashamed of those parts of their body, and if somebody touches them there, they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you.
Because they're so shame right
there. Yes,
then.
because we've taught them to be like, oh, hide that part of your body. It's just not
And
good.
I've learned, one of my friends who's an ER doctor, she's like, always go through the anatomy.
Yes.
She has 2 little boys, but she's like, make sure you're using words. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's funny to us now, like, because when they say it, it doesn't, like, vagina, because, they're learning how to say things, and you're like, that's right. And, like, you walk away, you're like, good for you.
I went over to a friend, and her little boy like pulled his pants down, and he's like, Auntie Tasha, I have a penis. And I was like, high five, buddy. And I'm like, high five, buddy. That's awesome, instead of being like disgusted or shocked.
Pull your pants.
And then we had to have a little conversation about, well, that's really wonderful and great that you have a penis, but
I know. Chris always takes him aside, and he's like, I don't want you to feel like, I'm glad you're comfortable, but you shouldn't just pull down your pants for everyone when you're answering. Yeah.
But he was very proud. Yeah. And I was like, high five, bud. That's great. So there's, you got to be mindful of that stuff with kids.
And it's funny because I don't know why we should feel uncomfortable talking to our children about it. It's brand new to them. You're teaching them everything outside. Why are you not teaching them about their own body?
It's a body. Yeah.
But it really scares me with just the technology age. And I've been in IT for 10 years. So it's an amazing thing to watch technology grow, but it's also so scary. It's so scary. And for people to get locked into a conspiracy theory, or if you are only this, you're a bad person, it's like, no. Like, if you're saving the children, I understand. Yes, COVID was a very bad thing for people being abused, but COVID didn't happen for sex trafficking. Sex trafficking has been happening.
Yeah, it just perpetuates it. It just gives it new avenues.
Oh, yeah, which is
it was
horrible.
Going on anyway.
Yeah, which is, it's really sad to see, but I love the people doing the work. I think what led you to this journey is kind of amazing. When did you finally take the leap into leaving the finance industry and going nonprofit?
2013.
2013?
Yeah.
And
So,
that was, but you've been researching since 2008.
Yep.
That's when you first started to go to that, which I didn't even know about those alliances, by the way, which is something new.
Yeah, go. They're so informative. I feel like they're wonderful.
And I feel like people who run such a important mission have to take the stance of educating, because that's all you do all day.
Yeah.
Is you're educating everybody, like, this is what we're pushing for. And I can't even imagine someone who hears you and is like, that's a stupid mission. Like, I can't even think of someone who would say that. Or,
well, it's interesting that you say that, because I don't think anyone thinks our mission's necessarily stupid, but there's a lot of men that don't want to hear about our mission because it makes them very uncomfortable. If I'm having a conversation, I mean, let's be honest, even in South Tampa, it's very popular to go to strip clubs. Even women go to strip clubs.
We are like the hub.
And
we are. We're in rap songs.
Oh, yeah. It's
Mons
horrible.
and
oh, yeah. I mean, there was a point, I don't know if this is still accurate, so don't hold me to this, but there was a point where we had more strip clubs in Tampa than McDonald's, and we had more strip clubs per capita, actually, than any other city in the United States. And that was, it's a Tampa. But anyway, so it's very common here. So now if I'm having a conversation with you about trafficking and the sort of relationship that goes on between trafficking, strip clubs, pornography, how do you think that goes over at a dinner with a bunch of people?
Oh, very uncomfortable.
Not so
and
well.
if they haven't accepted something that has been high, like pornography addictions or things like that, if that hasn't been brought up in the home, or I could see oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if you in a room full of just very high level, so you're the president of a nonprofit, but then you have all these corporation high level, excuse me if this is wrong, but white men, how uncomfortable that would make them feel.
Oh, it's happened. It doesn't make me uncomfortable.
No, not at all.
Horribly uncomfortable.
That's why I couldn't imagine the movement in the seats.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah. I've done it. I can tell anytime I give a presentation like that, I can tell who in the room.
Skeleton in the closet. In the closet. You're disgusting.
And look, we all have skeletons, but I can tell who's actively participating still. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that a horrible thing to be able to tell?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
We've had a donor, and I won't say the name, but offer us quite a large sum of money as a donation.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew that the same donor gives large sums of money to strip clubs to shut them down just for their people. And so I was like, no. Is this you know what I mean? Is this guilt money?
Yeah.
No.
Do you feel that if you give to this, if when you get caught,
that you're doing that, and I'm, you know what I mean? No, that's not. I don't want that. So,
I know, and
it is interesting.
So for you, if you want to go over the mission or vision, it's on your website and everything, which we'll push everybody to at the end. But have you noticed a specific age group that's more common to come to your
because
program?
I think they're getting younger and younger. So I'll tell you
that's so scary.
In the first, and here's why though. In the first few years, when the referrals that we were getting, I'd say the average age of a referral was 15 years old. But this is because it's so new. So now we're a decade in, all the education that you're doing at schools, with parents, at churches, at moms groups, people are being able to identify much earlier on. And so our referrals are getting younger and younger. The youngest referral I had was a 7-year-old. Mm-hmm. And that was it's heartbreaking.
How do you leave from either an appointment with them or talking with them? How do you decompress in a way, because you're engulfed in it every day? And I can step away from it for a little bit and I can research a little bit, but you are running this mission, which I'm going to be a lot more involved in just because you inspired. I get goosebumps and I get a little anxiety from it, but I think being a part of it and really pushing forward, just educating people. But how do you decompress every day? What is your go-to?
Yeah, I run. No, I wish I could do that all the time. I run a lot. I have to run. And sometimes I have to go talk to a therapist. That is just being completely honest. If you
should
want to do this job and you want to do it in a healthy way, I have to go and talk to someone and say, okay, how do I process this? Or, where do I file this? Because sometimes I want to unknow these things. I wish I never knew the things that I know. You know what I mean? But then I'm reminded that, number one, I just have to know this. This child lived through this experience, right? And they're still here and showing up. Number two, where do I file this? Now that I know this, how do I file it? And it helps. It helps tremendously to...
Well, because your anger could come out towards the what's happening,
oh,
and
gosh,
you have
and
to
it
file
has.
it. Oh, yeah.
I mean, with parents, when they're still investigating the case and there's visitation with a parent, let's say this has happened before, I cannot be there because I will go to jail.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you just knowing your own boundaries. Sometimes if I feel burned out, I don't review the referrals. Other staff review the referrals. So,
But you know your limit now because of
in the beginning, I didn't. I was
mental
like a wreck
health.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just cry for like 2 days.
Well,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
as I understand.
Yeah.
I think you're getting a little bit more awareness happening right now.
Yes.
Which is a good thing.
We have a very captive audience right now, probably more captive than we've ever had.
And as much as the conspiracy theories are ridiculous to say that things are like this is happening no matter what, but I think it sheds some more light for people to dig a little bit more into it to then, of course, create a solution to this horrible problem.
And look, we have had situations very similar to this current Wayfair situation where, whether it's a sex ad or it's child pornography or whatever the case is, people sell it like it's a normal product on a normal site because it's how the money gets processed, sort of. And it's
untrackable.
Also, yeah, exactly. And so are kids being shipped in cabinets? No. But could that be
a purchase for
yes. I mean, we've had cases where entire child pornography rings have been bust using SKU numbers and normal, quote unquote, normal looking products on normal looking sites. So sure, it happens.
Have you seen more arrests happening? Or is it still a steady?
The arrest is a very contentious thing for me in general because even though on paper we have some really strict laws, we're not prosecuting these cases. And so you'll see arrest after arrest after arrest, and I'm sick and tired of press conferences celebrating the arrest when why don't you do another follow-up press conference and tell the public how this person's going to jail for 9 weeks or they're getting probation.
Yeah, 1 month.
Yeah.
Or you sign off a rape case like it's no
I mean, it's ridiculous. And so our kids are getting a life sentence essentially because they're going to have to deal with these memories or this trauma or their triggers for the rest of their lives. And you're just sometimes getting a slap on the hand. So arrests in general,
that's disgusting.
They irritate me because we're not doing a good enough job. The way that it is now, I feel, we protect predators. Yeah. We're not protecting our kids the way that we should.
And we need to go after that in the justice system.
Yes, we do. 100%.
With that, shows them that they can't get away with it. Because if you're getting a slap on the wrist for the disgusting things that you're doing, what makes you stop?
You don't. Exactly. I mean, we've had traffickers. We had a trafficker that was arrested, and it was a pretty high-profile case. It was a federal case. Got arrested. I thought he was still in jail. I thought he was going to be in jail for life because he was caught with a whole bunch of children in Tallahassee. And then about a year or two ago, I see an article in the newspaper about this trafficker that got caught with a 14-year-old girl. And I'm thinking, why does this name sound so familiar? Why? And then I realized, because it's the same guy that trafficked our kid, 5 years ago. And so I did call Tallahassee and say, why is this guy out of jail? Oh, well, he's on probation. Oh, well, why is he on probation? Why does he deserve probation? So,
oh, my God. And you have people with marijuana charges.
That are in jail.
For life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's a whole nother discussion.
So he got caught again on probation.
With the 14-year-old.
So we're just shooting him back out to get a victim.
I mean, it's just, it's like pedophilia. We don't know what causes it, and we don't know any kind of cure for it, right? So this is the same thing.
So you keep them in there. That's it.
Yeah, you traffic a child, you go to jail, and you stay there. Forever. That's my thought on it.
No, that's 100%. I was going to say other things.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring. I think this interview is going really well, and I don't want to bring violence into it right now.
I think we should test products on you guys and not on animals.
That they should be a part of a weapons lesson, and see how fast they can run. But literally. I think you kind of nailed it on the head when you said, what's what makes you fire is what was the phrase?
What fires together wires together
Yes.
in your brain. There's a really good book about that. I think it's called Buddha's Brain, maybe. And it's not about Buddhism. It's about the brain. I have no idea why it's called Buddha's Brain. But it's the premise.
She's not
of
promoting
the book,
a book right now.
Yeah.
She's just
the premise of the book is what fires together wires together, and sort of how in pornography or any of the things that our kids are doing, how little brain maps form in their brains based on visual things that they're watching. A really good book for parents if they haven't had a conversation with their children about pornography. It's called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. That's a good resource for having a pornography conversation with your child.
Good Pictures. Oh, that's really good. Good Pictures, Bad Pictures.
Yeah, it's a book.
And have you noticed? I don't know how like it's set up with all of the education and everything with when the girls come in, but is it older kids and younger kids together? Do you do classes and art, like different types of activities together?
So, it just depends on the children and their level of trauma, how long they've been experiencing trauma, if the trauma was from a parent, if it was from, sort of a pimp-controlled situation where it's this older boyfriend or this older girlfriend. We talk about sex trafficking happening a lot to girls. Some of our referrals are for boys as well. Mm. And so it just depends on their kids. I know one of our children are on the same treatment track. And so we try to make it very individual to their needs. And you're a mom. You have 3 kids. They're totally different, right?
Yes.
They need different things. They like different things. And so we try to do the same thing with our kids. We try to make sure that we're meeting them where they are, not thou shalt do this therapy.
Yeah, this will work. Yeah.
Exactly. Some of them don't respond at all to talk therapy, but they respond really well to equine therapy. Yeah, so, it just depends on the child.
What's without, of course, stating names or anything like that, what is your most inspirational story with one of the kids?
This is an easy one. My favorite story, we had a little girl that came to us when she was 12. And she was with us until she was 14, which is really sad that you're celebrating your 13th birthday and your 14th birthday in a safe house. Just, think about that, how absolutely horrible.
But maybe it was wonderful
with a bunch of strangers, right? And we try to make it as wonderful as possible. But anyway, so she was with us for 2 full birthdays and was reunified with her family, but against my wishes. I did not. Her mom was actually her trafficker, but she was reunified with an aunt or a grandma, something like that. Extended
not her mom, but
extended family. But I still just don't like that, right? Like I'm
you're protective.
Yeah. And so it was reunified with the family. It didn't work out. The reunification failed. But one of our staff members that had worked with us for a while and was no longer working there, actually, she adopted her.
Oh.
I know.
That's wonderful.
It's amazing.
She was working when she was there.
Yeah.
Oh.
She adopted her.
Wow, that just gave me chills.
So they're like a super happy, just magical family unit, and she's thriving, and it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And you keep in contact with them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How many staff members do you have?
Right now there's about 5.
Do you notice, not like rotation as in turnover, but like rotation where they need breaks from everything?
So we don't have our safe house anymore. We made all of our services mobile. So the problem with having a safe house is kids can't come to you, right? They have to be brought to you by either FBI or law enforcement. So all of our services are mobile now. Okay. And because of that, I think our turnover is a lot less. When we had our 24-hour awake staff safe house where you're triaging all the time, our turnover was insane.
Yeah, it was hard mentally.
I was insane. I mean, if you made it 6 months, I was dancing. You're
like, wow, thank you.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so changing it to mobile, how does that? What is the?
So now all of our services that we have, we take them to children. So if you have a child. Oh. So here's the thing. Safe house programs.
Well, you can get more kids and connect with more.
So we went from serving 5 kids in a safe house to 93 kids.
Oh, wow.
In 12 months, literally, without the safe house. So the need is great, but safe houses, based on the legislation, are voluntary programs. How many children are voluntarily going to go to a safe house in the middle of nowhere? We had no iPods, no iPads, no social media, no traditional school setting. And so the buy-in is really difficult, right? And so this way we can make our services mobile. So if a child has been removed from a family member, for example, and they're with a foster mom or a foster dad or a guardian ad litem or a mentor, we take our services to them where they are. So it's really been helpful in terms of being able to stabilize children.
How do you get to the kids that are in foster care?
So we're contracted to,
if they get abused in foster care.
If they get abused in foster care.
Would they have to kind of somehow find you?
Well, no. So the abuse hotline, we rely heavily on our abuse hotline. So
because they connect with you.
Kids are able to call the abuse hotline. Adults can call the abuse hotline. And then that is within 24 hours, the child will be seen by a child protective worker. And then we're on that initial staffing. Okay. So when the report comes in, we're there.
So what's a typical day for you?
There's no typical day.
You're like, I don't even know how I got here today. You're like, I don't even know how I'm here today.
I mean, you plan for a typical day, but it doesn't work like that.
Because could it be case work? It could be home visit. It could be getting
it could be a child calling, having an epic meltdown. It could be an emergency court hearing. It could be a new case that came in through the abuse hotline.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It could be a placement blowing up. I mean, it's just, and this is not just Redefining Refuge. This is anyone that's working in child welfare. I don't think they have a typical day.
No, because
it's like being a mom. Do you have a typical day?
Oh no, I couldn't tell you. I don't even know my name right now.
Yeah,
I don't even know my name.
Same thing. Same thing.
So how has this totally changed your view about moving to the U.S.?
I don't think it changed my view. It just showed me how ignorant I was, and that you think that a first world country won't have any need, and you think that they don't have any problems. But, these kinds of human rights problems are pervasive throughout the world, really. So I don't think it could change my view in America. It just it expanded my own mind a little bit.
And I really wish people hear this and kind of pay more attention to everything around them. Because as someone who, my husband was leading to basically a second life. But of course we've reestablished like our marriage and everything like that. But like it opened my eyes to so many more things and toxic things. And wow, I was blinded by so many crazy things that happen to ordinary people all the time.
Yep.
So am I thankful? It had nothing to do with kids, yes. But it still made me realize that there is so much problem with letting children kind of decide for themselves and not protecting them in a way of, they can look at that computer. That's fine.
Ugh.
There's no that's just like detrimental. And it's just like simple things like that where you're not being overprotective. You're literally helping a child understand life and just like helping guide them. And then when I hear moms and dads doing the things they do to kids, it just like...
And look, there's age-appropriate ways to have these conversations.
Oh, yeah.
So parents call me, and I'm not a mom yet, but parents call me all the time and say, how do I have... They don't know how to have these conversations. And I understand because, when I'm a mom, I don't want to zap my little 3-year-old's innocence. I want them to think the world is a wonderful, beautiful, friendly place, right?
Course.
But it's like, where's the balance of the world is wonderful and friendly, and I want you to be happy and unicorns and rainbows, but I also need you to know certain things. And so there is a balance in that, of course. There are ways to have age-appropriate conversations with our kids. And I will also tell you, speaking of social media, we have a presentation that we teach at schools and we do with parents and PTAs. And any time that we've done this presentation, I do not have a dry eye in that audience. Parents are just bawling their eyes out because they had no idea. They had absolutely no idea that all of this was going on an electronic device, on an iPad, on a TV game, on an iPhone. And so... Just
like when the bullying happens and kids get their self-esteem, it's
exactly.
Like these people can creep into your kids' world and you have no idea what they're doing.
And I would want parents to know too, not to feel judged or shamed because our parents didn't have technology to contend with in their raising us, right? They didn't have to contend with social media and Facebook and Instagram and Kik and TikTok and all these things. And so this generation of parents, this is really a first generation of parents that's having to contend with these things. And no one taught you how to parent with that.
Yeah, and you're not wrong.
No.
Right? It's going to happen. It's going to creep in. But back in the day, it was what, VHSs and magazines?
I mean, yeah, at best, right? And so just, give yourself some grace as a parent because no one taught you this stuff.
Yeah, just like when I have the conversations or I notice Juliana runs ahead and Jaden screams, "Don't get too far. Someone can grab you," right? And I'm like, oh my God, my anxiety is projected onto this child and it's protected. But for me, I'm like, I just want them to teach to protect each other when they're together. But it's like just navigating, just like
and
make sure not
a balance.
To,
you know, and some kids, and you know your children, that's what I tell parents. I'm like, you know your children way better than I do. And so you have to, some kids have a lot of maturity. Some kids are overly sensitive, or not overly sensitive, like hypersensitive.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you need to decide what's too much, and again, what's appropriate for their age and maturity and their sensitivity. But they do have to know that, not everyone is well intentioned in the world.
Well, yeah. And do you notice that when you do get, I like to call them survivors. I like how you guys, right? And they come in, that they have to kind of relive if their abuser gets back on the street? Like, is it just like a relive trauma over and over again?
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. And that's happened to us numerous times because, like I said, there's an arrest that happens and they serve a few months in jail and then they're out. And if they're going to get out, we oftentimes, not all the time, but we know. And then, this is a conversation that we have to have with the kids. And it's such a horrible message that we're sending to the child because what message are we sending to you if he's out of jail? It was okay to do this to you. And I mean, these kids are so brave to speak up anyway, and to tell their story and to tell what happened to them. And they're brave every day that they have to do therapy, and they're brave every day that they're catching up on school. And they're brave when they have to go to the dances for the first time because some of them have never been. And so it's the horrible message that we send them when people get out of jail.
Do you notice stages where they're not talking to then finally hugging or? It's just like they're a child again a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though they've had to experience such horrible things, they get that a little bit of innocence back.
Yeah, like those glimpses are just the most magical, like makes you want to cry. So I remember going to our safe house one day and the girls were playing with the hose and they were just like being silly and spraying each other. They were washing the car, I don't know what they were doing, but they were just... And that little moment, like those moments, they're magical because they still have that inside them. They still have hope, right? Like they still, no matter, kids are the most resilient, extraordinary. I tell them all the time, I'm like, you guys teach me more than I could ever teach you in my life. Like you teach me every day because you're so resilient and you're so strong and you're still showing up like, who even are you? Yeah. Like, wow. I love that. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, because it makes you keep going too.
Yes, they inspire me. Yes.
I love 100%.
That.
100%. Okay, so I think we got some good information out today.
Yeah.
I don't want to overload. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a second one of these because I think it's super important and needs to stay top of mind.
Thank you.
But let's go over some services that you provide, as in like speaking out to schools and things like that, because I really think just you saying you go through a presentation about just awareness for parents should be given to everybody.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do some webinars or something. But if you can go over that, your website, how people can donate. I can't wait to get my bracelets.
I know I should have bought them to you. I mailed them on Friday, but I should have bought them to you today.
So you can go over all like your handles and stuff.
Oh, well, thank you. So our website is redefiningrefuge.org, which definitely needs some updating. But you can also find us on Instagram, Redefining Refuge, on Facebook, Redefining Refuge. And as far as services, again, we love to teach. My heart is in teaching, I feel like, especially about this. And so if parents want any training, I mean, we do it for doctors, for hospitals, for our first responders, for our bus drivers.
Well, because they have to see when patients come in, kids come in, if there's any signs.
Exactly. And it's something that's hidden in plain sight. And so when you start to know what to look for, you'll see it. And so, we'd love to train. The social media presentation is something that we might make available online with COVID happening now. A lot of parents
need it. They're putting of electronic devices is so prevalent.
Yeah. And then, as far as donating, that's always very welcome. We had a really rough year with COVID, and our two biggest fundraisers of the year were canceled. So
the gala, that's when I started. And the tea.
Yes, and the tea. So donating online would be wonderful. If you have a birthday coming up and you want to do a little Facebook birthday fundraiser for us.
Yes.
Those are super helpful to us throughout the year. So anything helps.
I love that. And look out for, I'm going to be doing like a woman in workforce event, and I'm going to do the proceeds for you guys.
Thank you.
And of course, now you have to come.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just split that out. So now you're stuck. But this is going to launch a couple days before the Trafficking Awareness Day. So people can be
July
all for
30th?
it. Yeah, and maybe give them a little bump to go donate. So this will be on Monday. Tomorrow.
Oh, sweet.
And we're going to hopefully get more people involved and not put people down for not knowing certain things, but just educate more and look out for all children. I think it's so important. I'm the mom who's out being like, don't go in traffic to another kid or like something like I'm that mom that's annoying.
Like, where's your mom? Yeah. And I see kids walking around,
where's your mom at? So just like protecting our kids because their innocence is so important because you're so right with just watching that little glimpse of childhood in them just kind of fires you up to want to change the world, right?
Yes.
And you're doing it. I'm so happy to have you today.
Well, we're all doing it, right? Like it's a community effort.
Definitely
I say it all the time.
It takes a village.
Yes.
I got my cute little handwritten note from Natasha for getting some cute, really important bracelets, but that are super cute. But I love the personal feel you bring to it, the realness, which is so important. I'm big on owning what we don't know and learning every day. So I'm excited for the next steps for us in our relationship and moving forward to really push this mission. And I appreciate you joining Not a Great Whisperer podcast. You'll find Natasha on Not a Great Whisperer at The Real K-Ray, Cray, katieray.com, and Redefining Refuge is her nonprofit. It's .org. Go and donate. Or is there volunteering?
It's
not
super
really
tough to volunteer. Yeah.
So donate is the best thing you can do and spreading the awareness around your community. So I thank you for joining today. Serious topic, but we still had some laughs in there. And appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Appreciate you too. Thanks, Katie.